Uh, in the past, I spoke at great length over some techniques we used to convert a building subject to an existing mortgage without paying it off. And I ran into a man in the housing industry from LA a few years ago, and he said, well, I flew all the way to Chicago to listen to you to try to figure out how to do that. And actually, it was very, very simple, but very hard. We had at 260 East Chestnut an underlying mortgage, say, probably worth a half of the retail sales value of the building, held by Northwest Mutual Life Insurance Company, and they said, no prepaid means no prepay under any conditions, under whatever you want to give us, we're not taking it. Our mortgage stays. So he said, my God, you know, they're robbing us of this value. What will we do? So we went to the title company and we said, what if we put a portion of every sale proceed we get into a trust fund, which you will hold for the purpose of paying that mortgage when it becomes due, or when the mortgagee wakes up and decides to call the mortgage. And they said, well, I guess we can do this because we don't have many condominiums that we're insuring title to, and we think it's a great concept, and we're going to make a lot of money. So they did it. And then the lawyers started and said, well, wait a minute. This is a title company undertaking that says the mortgage shows on your title insurance policy, but we endorse it to say no buyer will ever suffer any loss because of the enforcement of that mortgage. All right? Now, so far, that's good. But they said, well, what if the title company goes broke? We're talking about millions of dollars here. And so we said, don't worry. We're going to have them hold it in Chicago Title and Trust as a trust company, so it's an isolated trust asset, can never be used to pay other title company claims. So we got by that. Then we had to deal with the people, the savings and loans and banks who wanted to make end-lord mortgages. And they said, our regulations say we can only make a first mortgage, not a second mortgage, and this is a second mortgage. There's a mortgage on the building. So we went to the comptroller of currency, which was the easiest thing to do, believe it or not. Wrote a letter, they wrote a letter back and said, fine. The title company does it, they hold it in the trust fund, and they endorse it this way. Mazel tov, you've got yourself a clean title. Unbelievable. Will it ever be used today? I doubt it. But you never can tell. I don't think holders of large mortgages on buildings like that would permit it to be done. They'd rather take the money and invest it in something else. But there are other ways to deal with it, as we did at 1440 Lakeshore Drive. At that point, there was a New York life insurance company mortgage that could not be prepaid, but it was very low in terms of the value of the units, and it was only paid quarterly. And it had a very, very favorable interest rate. Now, when that building was converted in the mid-70s, the prevailing home mortgage rate was 9 or 9.5%. This was a 5.5% long-term mortgage. So the developer said, this is easy. We're going to treat this like a co-op would treat it. We're going to keep that mortgage in place. We're going to sell the units and force every buyer to give us 4 months of normal operating deposits, which will include a mortgage payment. So we'll have all this money floating in our coffers, and we'll just continue to pay the mortgage until they finally see the light. And that's what they did, and it worked indeed. Now, will it work today? Obviously, the monthly assessment's going to be very high. On the other hand, the buyers don't have to go out and get a mortgage on the full purchase price. They already have half of it paid for them. And so they only need a mortgage on the balance. Now again, banks and savings and loan will say, who wants to make a second mortgage? A lot of these banks at that time did not, or if they did it to very rich buyers. And this happened to be a rich buyer building. And accordingly, the developer decided that he would make the second mortgages and hold them, which turned out to be a good thing because that was probably one of the first downtown Chicago condominiums that thrived.